Imagine a single phone call that could shatter a billionaire's world and rebuild it in an instant. A billionaire ready to fire his maid with one angry call. A little girl who picked up the phone instead and changed his heart forever. What started as rage turned into silence when he heard the words, "Please don't fire Mommy. She needs money for my medicine." That single call shattered a wall of pride and revealed a truth that money could never hide. But what happens when power meets innocence, and a billionaire learns what it truly means to be human? Stay with us on Whisper Fable to find out. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments, what time is it, and where are you watching from? Let's start. Where the hell is she again? Edward Hale's voice thundered across the office. The clock struck 9. The housekeeper hadn't shown up for the third time that week. He slammed his pen on the desk. "Mason, give me her number." Mason hesitated. "Sir, Marissa mentioned her daughter wasn't feeling well." "I didn't ask for excuses," Edward snapped. "I asked for her number." He dialed furiously, jaw clenched, staring at the skyline through floor-to-ceiling glass. Every second of silence irritated him more. Then, click, a soft, shaky voice. "Hello?" Edward frowned. "Marissa Grant." Finally. "Do you have any idea how unprofessional—" No, sir," the voice interrupted timidly. "Mommy's not home right now." He blinked. "Who is this?" "I'm Amara, sir." "Mommy's daughter." The child's tone froze him mid-sentence. He looked at the phone, confused. "Why are you answering her phone?" "Where's your mother?" "At the hospital," Amara said. "She told me to stay home." "I'm not supposed to open the door for anyone." "The hospital?" Edward repeated. "Don't tell me she's lying again." Amara's silence filled the line, then softly, "She's not lying, sir." Edward's irritation returned. "Listen, little girl. Tell your mom when she gets back, she doesn't have to bother returning. She's fired. I don't tolerate irresponsibility." There was a pause. He could hear her breathing, faint and uneven. Then she whispered, "Please don't fire Mommy." He rubbed his temple. "Excuse me?" "Please, sir," she said. "If she loses this job, we can't pay for my medicine." Edward froze. "What medicine?" The girl hesitated. "Mom said I'm not supposed to say. She said rich people don't like problems." For the first time, his voice softened. "What kind of medicine, Amara?" I get tired a lot. Sometimes my chest hurts when I run. Mommy takes me to the hospital after she finishes cleaning." Edward swallowed. His tone wavered. "And she's at the hospital now?" "Yes, sir." "She works there, too, in another part?" "She cleans floors at night after her shift with you." The phone slipped slightly from his grip. His luxurious office suddenly felt colder. "Why didn't she tell me?" "Because last time she was late, you yelled at her," Amara said innocently. "She cried in the kitchen." "I heard her." Edward's breath hitched. "She cried?" "Yes, sir. But she said you were good deep down, just strict." He didn't speak. The child's words cut sharper than any accusation. He could see her in his mind. Tiny, sitting on the floor, clutching a pink phone with cartoon stickers. "Where's your dad?" he asked quietly. "Daddy left before I was born. Mommy says I'm her only gift." For the first time in years, Edward didn't know what to say. His anger melted into something else. Shame. "Amara, do you have food at home?" "Yes, sir." Mommy left soup. "It's cold now, but I don't mind. Milo, our cat, keeps me company." Edward stared at the mahogany desk, where his reflection trembled on the polished surface. "You shouldn't be alone." "I'm okay, sir," she said softly. "Mommy said God watches me when she can't. Maybe he told you to call today." His throat tightened. He tried to reply, but couldn't. Only silence. Amara spoke again, barely above a whisper. "Are you still there?" "Yes," he said quietly. "Please don't tell Mommy," I answered. "She'd be scared you'd be mad." He cleared his throat. "I'm not mad, Amara. You sounded mad before," she said honestly. "But you don't sound mean now." A strange, heavy quiet filled the room. The same man who built billion-dollar companies suddenly couldn't manage a conversation with a 7-year-old. "Amara," he said finally, "can you promise me you'll stay inside until your mom comes home?" "Yes, sir." "I promise." "And tell her she's not fired." She gasped. "Really? Really?" "And tell her I'll call back later." There was a tiny giggle of relief. "Thank you, sir. Mommy will be so happy. She prays for you every night, you know." Edward blinked. "She what?" "She says even rich people need someone to pray for them." He couldn't speak. The call ended with a soft goodbye and the faint sound of the child humming a lullaby. Edward set the phone down slowly. The city lights outside blurred as he stared at his reflection. Expensive suit, perfect tie, hollow eyes, a man surrounded by everything money could buy. And yet for the first time he felt poor. He whispered into the empty room, "What have I done?" Edward sat frozen long after the call ended. The city skyline shimmered behind him, but all he could hear was the little girl's voice echoing in his head. She cried in the kitchen, but she said you were good deep down. For the first time in years, those words hurt more than any business loss ever could. He grabbed his coat and walked out. Mason called after him, confused. "Sir, the meeting with investors—" "Cancel it," Edward snapped. "And get me the address of Marissa Grant." The drive through the city felt endless. The further he went, the more the world changed. Glass towers turned into flickering streetlights, clean sidewalks into cracked pavement. When he finally reached a small, run-down apartment block, rain had begun to fall again. He knocked hard, no answer. Only the faint sound of a cat meowing inside. Then he saw it, the pink phone on the floor through a small gap in the curtain. He stepped back, guilt crawling through his chest. That little girl had spoken to him from this tiny, dark room while he sat in a chair worth more than her rent for a year. He called the hospital next, pretending to be a relative. "Marissa Grant," he said quietly. "Where is she working tonight?" Within an hour, he was standing in the hallway of the city hospital. The smell of bleach and fatigue filled the air. At the far end of the corridor, he saw her. Marissa, wearing an oversized uniform, mopping the floor near the emergency ward. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling from exhaustion. "Marissa," he called softly. She turned, startled, almost dropping the mop. "Mr. Hail." "Sir, I'm sorry for being late today. I'll make it up tomorrow, I swear." He raised a hand. "Stop, don't apologize." "But you called. I called to fire you," he admitted. "And your daughter answered." Her face drained of color. "Oh, God, she wasn't supposed to." "Marissa," he said gently, "why didn't you tell me she's sick?" Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Because you're my employer, sir." "You don't pay me to tell you my problems. You pay me to clean your house. And I need that job to keep her alive." Edward's jaw tightened. "You should have told me." She shook her head. "People don't like excuses, Mr. Hail, especially rich ones." That sentence cut him to the core. He swallowed hard. "I'm not angry. I'm ashamed." Marissa looked up in disbelief. "Ashamed?" He nodded slowly. "Your daughter said you pray for me every night." She gave a weak smile. "I do. You've always been fair. Hard but fair. That's rare." Edward looked at her trembling hands. "How long have you been doing double shifts?" 6 months. "Since Amara's diagnosis." "And what's wrong with her?" "Congenital heart defect," she said quietly. "She needs surgery soon. I've been saving every dollar." He looked around, eyes landing on a hospital poster. "Blood donors save lives." His breath caught. "Marissa," he said slowly, "did you ever donate blood at St. George's Hospital last year?" "Yes, sir. They were short one donor during an emergency surgery." "Why?" Edward exhaled shakily. "Because the patient who lived that night was my son." Marissa froze. Your son? He was in a car accident. They said a last-minute donor saved him." "It was you?" For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Marissa covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I didn't know." Edward's voice cracked. "You saved my boy, and I almost destroyed your world." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "This isn't charity," he said. "It's a debt. For what you did for my family, I can't take this." "You will," he insisted. "And from now on, you're not my maid. You're my employee at the foundation. Full salary, insurance, and health coverage for your daughter. Understood?" Marissa shook her head, overwhelmed. "Why are you doing this?" He looked her in the eye. "Because your daughter taught me what it means to be human." Weeks later, the hospital room was bright with morning light. Amara sat on the bed, clutching a small stuffed unicorn. Tubes were gone, her cheeks pink again. Edward entered quietly, holding a bouquet. "Uncle Edward," she called, smiling. He chuckled. "You remember me?" She giggled. "Mom says you help people now instead of yelling at them." He laughed softly. "Your mom says too much." Marissa smiled from the corner. "She's been waiting to see you." Edward knelt beside the bed. "You were very brave, Amara." She tilted her head. "You were, too. You said you're sorry." He nodded. "Yes, I did. And I meant it." Amara looked thoughtful. Mom said, "When people change, God smiles." Edward's throat tightened again. "Then I hope he's smiling today." Marissa reached over, squeezing his hand. "Thank you, sir." He looked at her gently. "No, thank you, Marissa." As they stood together, watching Amara hum softly to herself, Edward realized something he never had before. Some people chase fortune their whole life, and some find it in a child's voice, saying, "Uncle Edward?" Outside the window, the city lights flickered alive again. But for once, Edward didn't need them to feel rich. One phone call, one innocent voice, one man forever changed. When a billionaire tried to fire his maid, he never expected her little girl to reveal the truth that would break him and save them all. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Whisper Fable for more stories that touch the heart.